we quantified risk. So you've got to answer the question, how much risk is acceptable? Well, how much risk exists today? So we looked at 3 groups of labs. I call them the good, the bad, and the ugly. We had 378 QC samples from the year 2000. They had old methods, but they used QC software. We compared them initially to this group that had the same old methods, and they used people to set up their QC strategy. And now we have 233 from 2012 to 2014, and these people have new methods and people that have 10 more years of training. What are we going to see? We quantified the risk. What percent can produce less than 1 bad result in a million, and what percent of methods have over 1% risk? You can measure risk directly. If you want to do this in sigma speak, it means your sigma is 5.2, or here your sigma is less than 2.33. Every sigma can be converted to a risk level. So these are the good. 73%, back in the year 2000, 73% of their methods were producing less than 1 bad result a million, and only 3% had more than 1% of only 3% of their methods produced more than 1% errors. The percents get confusing. 3% of the methods with a 1% error rate. How did that compare to the people with the old equipment? Well, not surprisingly, there wasn't a big difference. There was a 5% difference in the number with error rates less than 1 in a million, and as expected, when they used individuals in all these different labs instead of a consistent QC process, now double the percent produced results, double the percentage of methods had more than 1% error rates. So what did we accomplish in 12 to 14 years? What will it be? Will the risk be better? Will it be less? Now we had 70% with only 1 bad result in a million and 5% error rates. I really expected, with the improvement in the analytical processes, this would have been dramatically different. And it wasn't. It's the reality of this, being able to see these numbers, that has me so convinced that I must be speaking with you. When you look at this in bulk, there's nothing here that you don't know. There's nothing new in the science. What there's new in is the evidence and the bulk of the evidence. So come back to that question. How many results can fail your medical goals? How many doctors are going to walk around with this t-shirt? I'm a medical doctor, and I demand these medical goals for 95% of my patients. How many results can fail medical goals before you stop reporting and fix the method? What are you going to do if patients, physicians, institutions, and society walk in and say, hey, I want 100% chance that I'm going to get a good result? Can you do that? Those are great questions. How much risk is acceptable to the people who matter? Well, let's look at something that many people can identify with, because you probably all know somebody who's getting blood thinners and monitoring their ProTime or INR. You're going to say medical goals are set at, now the 2 most popular choices are regulated limits of 15% or biological limits of 5.7%. That's a big difference. Our stable risk level, so the probability of results failing that medical goal, is less than 5%, 1%, 0.1%. Our QC processes ensure that no more than 20, 50, 100 patients will be reported if risk rises above that level. These are the numbers you need to fill in. When a doctor works both at the hospital on the north side of the street and the south side of the street, I think you're going to have trouble convincing him that on one side of the street, your INRs can be 3 times as lax as on the other side, or vice versa. What is the stable, do you want to turn out 5% medically unreliable INR results? How many patients are you willing to expose to unacceptable risk? Is this good enough? This is from Mosby's Medical Dictionary. This is another thing that got me riled up. Allowable error is the amount of error that can be tolerated without invalidating the medical usefulness of the analytical result, without making the result medically useless. Allowable error has a 95% limit of analytical error. Only one sample in 20 can have an error greater than this. 1 in 20. If you look up the definition of allowable analytical error, it's a systematic error that is acceptable both statistically and analytically. I don't know what that word analytically means there, and if you do, please write to me afterwards.